I want to take some time to go over the fitness test results. For those who don't know, we recently redid the fitness test during week 11, and I want to go over the group stats. I'm going to send you individual emails for those who participated, and then you'll be able to see your original results compared to the results that you had last week. Before I get into the tests, I kind of want to go over why we've selected these specific fitness tests. Because they're somewhat arbitrary, and I don't want people to get. I think if you understand why we selected these tests, maybe you won't get so hung up on the numbers, and you'll more so pay attention to what the numbers represent. So we needed a way to test cardio because that's important. We need a way to test cardio that everyone can do. So if someone has not been training at all, I can't have them go run a mile or something like that. So if we had more bikes, more uniform bikes with monitors where we could measure things, I would probably do it on the bikes. So we selected the step test. The step test, there's different variations of it. We kind of made up our own, but this gets used sometimes in physical fitness tests. It also gets used in research from time to time. So we didn't make it up. We just modified it slightly for what we need. I also think the step test is interesting because it's more functional in a way than a bike. Because if you don't perform well on a bike, some people never ride a bike, but everyone has to be able to walk up and down stairs. So even if you don't perform well on the step test initially, and you don't really care if you get better, maybe you just don't care about cardio that much. If we can show that you're actually improving on the step test, I would say that is has a pretty good correlation with walking up and down stairs or stepping on and off things in life. So I do think it's a good test. We also needed to test strength in a variety of ways. So if people are true novices, we can't lift weights. We could use machines, although at the Splex, there are machines, but we only have one of each. So from a logistical standpoint, I don't think that would work quite well. So we went with a push-up test, and the hand release push-up test actually borrowed from the Army. So that the script that I read you, I didn't write that. I just stole it from the Army. And I think it's a good test. Oddly enough, there is some research to show, I think it's been done in men, where it's like men of a certain age, if they could do over 40 push-ups straight, they had statistically a lower risk of heart disease. And I don't really think that has anything to do with the push-ups. It's not like push-ups are inherently good for your heart, but it's everything that would have gone into the ability to do 40 push-ups straight would have been, that's where you would have got the health benefit. So that person or those people probably were eating better. They were exercising, they were moving more, they were doing more strength training. All these things are known to benefit heart health. So I do think the push-up test is a good test. It's a good upper body strength test. And, it's something that probably should be able to push your body weight. So I still think it's functional. The last test is a dead hang test. That was our attempt at a way to efficiently test grip strength. Although I will admit that it's more of a grip endurance test and not like an overall strength test. But it's the best way, I think, to get a group of people in a gym through it. We did experiment with another way last summer and just wasn't very time efficient. So I like it. I think it works quite well. And there's a lot of really interesting research, I would say emerging research about grip strength. Some people are calling it the new vital sign. So, when you go to the doctor and they do height, weight, blood pressure, respiration rate, all those things, temperature, those are all vital signs. So if those are abnormal, it gets people's attention and they start to look at things, especially as things shift. So if you see a primary care provider every year and your vital signs are always in a certain, they look a certain way, and then at some point you go on for your annual checkup and they're very different, that would be an indication that your health is shifting. Well, what they're saying for grip strength is that people who have stronger grip tend to be healthier, where they see that correlation. And then people with weak grip strength tend to be less healthy. And there are some theories for why that is. I think there's been some research to show that, in research populations, the people with stronger grips generally had better diets, and grip strength was has been correlated with leg strength, because most people aren't just going and buying a hand grip strengthener. They're picking up heavy things, right? So, but that makes sense. If you've got people who eat higher quality diet and pick up heavy things regularly and move more and lift more weights, they're not only are they going to be stronger, but they're probably going to be healthier. So I also think that's a pretty good test. But I can't really say with any certainty that, here in Fit Club, if you can increase your push-ups by a certain percentage, or you improve your grip strength or hanging from a pull-up bar by a certain amount, that you're necessarily going to attain any measurable level of fitness or health that's going to be valuable to you. So that is to say that these are arbitrary just benchmarks to show progress or lack thereof, so that we can gauge if we need to shift things or if we want to focus on different things. So you may not do well on a test and you may not care, and that's fine. So I don't really care about push-ups. I'll keep working on it, but I don't necessarily want to have a lot of push-ups. And that's fine. So you could, and I wouldn't have a problem with that. But it's 3 tests. We do want to see them improve. So let's look at some group stats. Here we are, step test. We measure different things with the step test. So let's look at this chart starting on the left-hand side. DNP, that means did not perform. On pace is obviously stands for people who stayed on pace the entire time. Off pace for people who finished the test but fell off pace. And DNF is did not finish. So let's start in May. You can see we had one person who did not perform the test, and then everybody performed the test here in July. I'll say that one person, if you don't know Dawn was the one, if you saw her walking around in the boot, I want to give a shout out to Dawn, because she broke her foot like the week before we started the program, and she's still been training this whole time, just modifying as needed. But she doesn't have a boot on now, so if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can ask around. But if you see Dawn, you should give her a high five, because week 11, doing the fitness test, doing the step test, and she finished. So good job, Dawn. All right, so we can see, let's go down, we'll start at the bottom, did not finish. So in May, we had 2 people who did not finish. Now, you can see these are the totals here, so 15 and 14. So what I did, we have 30, maybe 31, 32 people in the group still. But we only had, in July, we only had 14 people participate in this specific test. So what I did was because that comparison would be weird. I mean, if you're looking at statistically the results from 30 something people and then half that. So what I did was I took everyone who participated in the fitness test in July. I only looked at your data from May. So I basically filtered out everyone else who didn't participate in the second test. So that's where these stats are coming from. I probably should have gone over that first. Okay, so you can see out of this group, if we just look at them at this group's results in May, we had 2 people, or 13%, who did not finish. And then if you look in July, everybody finished. People were off pace, but everybody finished. So I think that when I'm looking at this specific data, that's the most important thing to me, because we made this test hard enough to induce failure. There were always going to be a certain number of people who would not finish. That was the point, because we want to start to see a shift. So out of this group, we've seen these 2 people who didn't finish before. Well, now they finished. I don't know if they were off pace or on pace. I can't remember. But that's good, right? So now, and these numbers are about the same. So when we retest again in the fall at some point, we want to keep seeing it shift up. So we want to keep it at 0 people did not finish. So we want everyone to finish. And we want this off pace number now to start to drop and shift up in here and get more people on pace. So we are trending in the right direction as far as performance goes with the step test. So I'm really happy about that. Now let's look at heart rate and Borg RPE rating. This is where the numbers get a little bit wonky. And this is kind of why I prefaced this with don't get hung up on the numbers. So BPM is beats per minute. So the average beats per minute for those people who finished the test on pace. So if you finish the test off pace for the stats, I filter this. Your heart rate doesn't go into this. So this is out of all the people who took the test, finished it on pace, and recorded their heart rates. The average beats per minute for this group was 119.5 in May beats per minute, and then it shot up to 145.6 beats per minute in July. So ideally, if your cardio is improving, you want heart rate to drop. Heart rate and blood pressure, which we're not testing, they're finicky. So there's a lot of different things in life that can affect heart rate. So out of this group, maybe we had some people change medications. Maybe some people didn't sleep well. Maybe some people drank too much coffee. Maybe some people are under different levels of stress. A lot of things can change that can affect heart rate. So I'm not too worried about this shift upwards. I think it's a little weird. Maybe I did my math wrong. I redid it a couple times, but I don't want people to get freaked out. And there's going to be some people who are going to see that on their individual test scores. Like, whoa, my heart rate went way up. I thought I was getting fitter. Why is it like that? And just keep in mind, as I mentioned, there are a lot of things that can affect heart rate. So it's just one number. So let's not worry too much about that. We'll see at the end of 6 months how this all pans out, because we really also haven't had a lot of time. 10 weeks is not very long. So this is more of like an inventory fitness test to see where we are. The real scores I'm going to be looking at are May versus the final fitness test in the fall. Okay, Borg RPE. So remember, Borg, the numbers on Borg, those are your subjective rating of how hard it felt. So that includes everything: breathing, sweating, temperature, the fact that I don't tell you how much time is left, everything, like how hard was it? And this didn't change at all. So you guys in May out of this group said the average was 13.3. So that is somewhat hard. And it stayed at 13.3. So this is a number I actually do want, I care about. I like these subjective scales because this is you telling me that this test feels, as a group, feels the same as it did when we started. And as a coach, that makes me unhappy. I'm not unhappy with you guys. I'm disappointed in myself because after 10 weeks of training, on average for this group that participated, it didn't feel any different. So there's some different ways we can look at this. And you're going to have to look at your own test results, the individual results, and see if you want to make this change. So I can start to game the game. We can do more step ups, which maybe we will. I don't think I'm going to change too much because I do expect this to change quite a bit towards the end. But for you as an individual, maybe you want to work on this more, because as I mentioned before, stepping up and down off of something and walking upstairs and walking downstairs, it's pretty functional. So it's a good thing to practice if you're not comfortable with it. And I have some thoughts, and I'll go over that later on how you could address that. But I would like to see that change. But at least it didn't get worse, like the heart rate. So all in all, when I look at the totality of the data for the step test, I'm really happy that everyone finished. I love the way that's trending in a positive direction. I'm not negative about the heart rate thing going the direction we didn't want. I'm not happy with myself about Borg not changing. Maybe I need to be a little harder on you guys. I don't know. But just in training, like maybe I'm not pushing you enough. We'll see. But like I said, these are just inventory numbers. So the real test is going to be at the end of this in the fall. All right, let's move on. Other tests, dead hang and push-ups. So let's start with dead hang. In May, your average was 60.9 seconds for this group of 15 people. And then right now your average was 64.5. So it improved. Not a ton, but we don't really hang from pull bars that much. We just pick up heavy things. So good. It's going in the right direction. That's what I want to see. Push-ups for this group, the average was 14.1 and it went up to 17.7. So again, improvement. So our strength numbers are improving, which makes sense because I am there coaching you on the strength days. I don't play as much of an active role in the cardio days. So maybe that's why cardio is not improving as much as we would want it to. Okay, so final thoughts and some recommendations. If you want to get better at something, you have to practice it. So I'm going to tell you a little story, something that I think helped me a ton. When I was a freshman in college, we had a coach. Our head coach was tough, and as a freshman, for me, stepping up to collegiate sports was challenging. The environment was challenging. It just was a level. I was always used to being like the better athlete, and when you go into a college environment, um, everyone was the better athlete where they came from. So I struggled a little bit, and oddly enough, I struggled with physical fitness. And our training field was at the base of a mountain, and there was a bunch of switchbacks, and our coach loved to have us run those for a specific time, and I absolutely hated it. And I don't know why I hated it. It's just like mentally, as an 18-year-old, it just, I don't know, it got to me, and I didn't like it. And so we would run it as a team, and then it would be kind of like punishment, which for anything that you could screw up on, and typically freshmen are the ones making the most mistakes. And I think the coaches knew that I hated it, so I was running it the most, I felt like. And one day a senior came up to me and was like, "Do you want some help with this?" And I was like, "How would you help me?" And he was like, "Well, look, you know that you're going to have to run it, and it's going to be stressful, and they're going to be judging you. So why don't you just but they don't make you run it every day. So every day that you know that we're not going to run it, why don't you run it on your own without any stress? Just make it your everyday thing. You just run this hill, run these switchbacks." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, I guess that wouldn't be as stressful if no one was timing me and I didn't have all this pressure." So I did that. Unless it was iced over, I was up there every day running those switchbacks to the point where like I knew every rock on that trail. And I very quickly went from the worst person to the best on the team, just because it wasn't a hard thing for me anymore, because I did it so much. It was just routine. And that experience has always stuck with me. And it's just like, look, if something's your weakness, just do it a lot and make it not your weakness anymore. It might even become your strength. So if if you're struggling with step test and you're struggling with staying on pace, practice a 6-minute step test. You don't even, I mean, so that the step that we use is 12 inches and the beat is 130 beats per minute. So you can get on YouTube and just search 130 beats a minute, and you might get a metronome, you might get some music. You can buy a cheap metronome, probably on Amazon for really cheap. However you want. So you could replicate that every day if you want it. It's only 6 minutes, right? You can do it at a slower pace and work your way up. You could see how long you can hold that beats per minute, and maybe you can only start off holding it for a minute, and then over time you can hold it for 2 minutes. Um, when you go to the Splex and you're doing your cardio, maybe you get on the bike and you do 6-minute intervals. You grind on a bike for 6 minutes, and then you recover 2 to 3 minutes at a lighter pace, and then you grind for 6 minutes. So maybe you just want to train working hard, doing something else for 6 minutes at a higher intensity. You could do lower intervals, like maybe you're on the bike and you want to grind really hard for a minute and then rest for a minute. And you can imagine that, like 30 minutes, minute on, minute off, minute on, minute off. Get used to pumping your legs at a higher intensity on any piece of cardio equipment. It's going to make you better. And if you practice with a step, even if it's not a 12-inch step, it doesn't matter. Practice at a faster pace, or just make it so routine that the next time we get to a physical fitness test and we have to do the step test, it's like, I do this every day anyway. It's not a big deal. It's the same thing with push-ups. If you're not good at push-ups, just do more push-ups. And it's honestly, it's that simple. Pair it with something you already do. You brush your teeth twice a day, hopefully. Do push-ups twice a day. Every time you brush your teeth and you put it down, you either lean up against the counter and do push-ups, or you drop to the floor and you knock out some push-ups. You could do 10 twice a day. You do that for a year, you're going to be freakishly good at push-ups. Like, and that's not the only way to do it, but I'm just saying that hanging from a pull-up bar might be a little bit more challenging if you don't have a pull-up bar. But when you come to the gym, even you're already there, and everyone's usually there a couple minutes early. Do some step ups, hanging from a pull-up bar, knock out push-ups, things like that. So just start to sneak it in and think of, if you're trying to improve this stuff, you think of it as practice, not as working out. You're just getting used to the movements, you're getting used to the pace. And over time, you will improve. And not only are you going to get good at these tests, but you'll have all the other benefits that go along with it, with getting stronger and improving your cardio. So those are my thoughts. Good job. Thank you for all of those who participated. I love to see the effort. I'm really, really happy that everyone finished the step test this time, even though not everyone finished on pace. And just in general, I'm really happy. I'm happy with you guys. Those of you who are showing up routinely, even if you don't like the results of this test, I can see the improvement. I mean, and for those of you who haven't seen it, just watch, just pay attention, see what other people are doing. I mean, you guys adjust the racks on your own. You're picking your barbells. You do everything. I hardly do anything for you. I just put the white thing on the whiteboard, and even when we're doing technique stuff, I'm just nitpicking at this point. You guys are so good at this. So I'm happy. I hope you're happy. Let's keep moving in the right direction. And thank you for participating. And I'm looking forward to the rest of this time with you guys. All right. Have a good rest of your day or evening, and I will see you in training at some point in the very near future. All right. Have a good one.